Let's make some noise. Come on.
As always, thank you very much, Nick Foles. And yes, indeed, let's make some noise. Welcome, everyone, one and all, to the Final Word with Matty B here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Your boy Matty B on the call on this lovely Tuesday, September the 9th, 2025. And Phillies, I love when I follow Phillies wins, man. I really do. And 9-3 tonight over the Mets. They have now crept below double digits for that magic number to clinch the NL East. 9 now is the number to clinch the NL East. And I think with the win tonight, I kind of said this last night on the post-game show, with the win, this definitely, to me, seals the Mets' fate in the NL East. They're not coming back from 9 games back with about 2 weeks left to go. That would be some sort of 07 Phillies magic. But I think it's safe to say that we've put the Mets behind us. Now the Mets have to worry about falling out of the playoff contention altogether. But big-time win tonight. Everything was working. Harrison Bader leading off. Another new leadoff hitter tonight as Phillies are trying to, I guess, plug and play throughout the rest of this regular season with the leadoff position. Suarez set a new career high in individual strikeouts, 12 tonight for him. He went 6 solid, effective innings. But, again, you're never going to sell me on 6 innings, 99 pitches. That's not effective to me. That's labored. It is, man. I mean, 6 innings, 99 pitches. I get it. It's 2025, but I mean, he was dealing, but he was throwing a lot of pitches. I hate that. But the end state is a victory. Kyle Schwarber, the big story for the Phillies, 50th home run of the year, gets to that magic number now. Does Kyle Schwarber have an outside chance for 60? We're running out of games. Probably not going to do it, but it would have been nice. I thought he was on pace for a while there to hit 60, but that's probably not going to happen now. So all in all, though, a good Phillies win as they get that magic number down to 9, now taking the first 2 games over the Mets, looking to win the series tomorrow at the bank. So that's on the table. The Eagles are once again in the trade business. Another trade today. The Eagles acquiring the running back out of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tank. What the hell's his name? Tank Bigsby. For a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026 that will become a 4th-round pick, I believe, if Hassan Reddick does anything. Or no, is it Reddick or is it Huff? One of them two is conditional there. And then a 6th-round pick also in 2026. So the Eagles parting ways with some of that draft capital that Howie Roseman accumulated for next year. Reports now that Shipley's got a banged up rib. Is he going to miss extended period of time? We don't know. Bigsby also gives him another option at the punt returner position or kick returner. And, just a little bit more depth. Is this a Shipley insurance policy, or is this not really having faith and confidence in A.J. Dillon, or what that running back room brought to bear against the Dallas Cowboys collectively? Is this something that Howie wanted to look at to try to upgrade because of some concern there? Even Saquon Barkley was unable to sort of deliver the home run pitch in that game. So the Eagles add a running back, mainly, I guess, optically for kickoff return coverage. But they give up some capital. So we're getting into the draft. We'll get into the trade. And the NFL has passed its sentence down on Jalen Carter today. Was it $53,000, $57,000 fine, and I guess time served for his 1 game being ejected in week 1. So no long-term suspension for Jalen Carter. And now I guess the big excuse about a lot of the lack of pass pressure and the big excuse of why the cornerbacks struggled so much on Thursday night against the Cowboys. Well, it can't be used anymore because Jalen Carter should be a full go against the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's see how the pass rush does and how the cornerbacks do now with Jalen Carter. Man, I was listening to a bunch of excuses today. It would have made those of us who were invested in the Big Al's Excuse Emporium very happy. The stuff that I was hearing along the radio airwaves and the digital airwaves today about why the Eagles struggled so mightily on the pass rush and why their cornerbacks struggled. Nothing about the fact that these players may not be any good and that Howie might have overestimated his ability in terms of moving certain assets this offseason. But no, it's because we lost Jalen Carter in the first play of the game, which had a domino effect on the pass rush as well as the cornerback play. So I was hearing all those excuses being floated today. Again, I'm sure it made Big Al proud, and those of us associated with with Big Al's Excuse Emporium, to hear all that crap being and I didn't even know those products were for sale. So Al, the store's growing out of our control because apparently stuff's hitting the shelves every day, which is good, keeping us all in the red or in the black, I guess, right? So that's going to be on the table. Your day in Philadelphia sports history, your other night segment, and your card review. Also on this neat little package bow episode of the Final Word with MattyB. And let's get it rolling. MP, yes, welcome back, my friend. Tank Bigsby is an immediate number 2. Yeah, is it because Shipley's hurt, or is it because Shipley wasn't effective? Listen, I thought Shipley in the carries he got against the Cowboys was pretty effective. But I heard he also dinged up that rib, and rib injuries are terrible because there's nothing you can do about them. Time is all you can do with a rib injury. Yeah, it's very hard and very difficult to play with one, and really all you can do with one is time. So is Bigsby the immediate number 2 because of injury? And why isn't A.J. Dillon been elevated to number 2? This was supposed to be one of the great signings of the guru, Howie Roseman. Did that not work out? I think what A.J. Dillon had a carry or 2 on Thursday night. But Bigsby also gives him another option at kick return. So, I mean, I don't like giving up assets, draft picks. There was Eagles got a few thousand of them in 2026. I guess he's trying to make some moves here and trying to strengthen the team now. But I asked this question a few weeks back when they brought in John Minchie. Was wide receiver 4 or 3, was that really the number 1 concern for this football team? And I'm going to ask it again. Is another depth piece running back the main concern for this football team right now? Why are we not addressing the cornerback? Why are the Eagles not going out? I know they brought in some guy, or they're thinking about bringing some guy in, but Hinton, they bring him in. But why are they not addressing the cornerback? And why are we going after depth running backs and depth wide receivers? So inquiring minds want to know. And pieces, or maybe trade bait for a corner. I don't Bigby, whatever his name is. I don't know. I don't know, man. Just go out and trade for one, man. This guy only costs us two 6th-round picks, or a 5th and a 6th. One of the picks can go conditional to 4. That would suck. You lose a 4th-round draft pick for a depth running back in 2026. But we'll get into all that because the Eagles are now preparing officially. We've turned the calendar. It's now week 2, and the Eagles now have to get ready for a very tough matchup in Kansas City. Say what you want, and negative Nancy that I am, the negadelphian that I supposedly have come across to be, this is a real tough game for the Eagles. You got the Chiefs, whose backs are against the wall. They don't want to start 0-2. It's their home opener, and yes, it's a Super Bowl revenge game. So if the Eagles go out in this game like they did on Thursday, they're not winning. They're absolutely not going to win. But, it's a week-to-week league. I get you. But are we once again, and I know the conversation really has just started to turn towards Kansas City, and it will get hotter tomorrow and then Thursday and as deeper we get into the week. But is there going to be as much overhype on this game, or overconfidence, not overhype, but overconfidence of the Eagles' ability or chances to beat the Chiefs as it was against the Cowboys, that we squeaked out a win? Squeaked one out. And also the homers out there, the blind Eagle faithful who follow this team to the end of the world no matter what, and don't question anything because the Gestapo will punish them. But one of the big points I heard was how just immensely effective Jalen Hurts in that offense was in that football game. I'll give you the first half. The offense moved the football. Jalen Hurts was not, he was effective. Jalen Hurts was my Eagles MVP in this game because really offensively, he was the only thing going for this team with his legs. But there's little to no, and then the fact that the Eagles defense struggled mightily in the first half. And then they allegedly made their adjustments at halftime, and in the second halftime that followed that for the weather delay, and held the Cowboys to 0 second half points. But nothing is being talked about that I heard today was the fact that the Eagles only scored 3 second half points. So why are we not being consistent about that? Oh, I don't know, because they don't want to talk about stuff like that. So the Eagles made their defensive adjustments, and the Cowboys also. And the big glaring thing in the second half was two things for me: the lack of throwing the football down the field, and the fact that Saquon could not get loose. I kept waiting for the 75-yard, dagger run in the third, fourth quarter to put this thing away. It never came. And now this is 2 games in a row. Yes, 2 games in a row now that Saquon Barkley has been, for the most part, nullified by opposing defenses. I go back to the Super Bowl last year of being the first game. And now this game, Saquon has come out and looked human. And now he's got to go up against the team that allegedly probably provided the blueprint in the first place in the Kansas City Chiefs. So is there concern at all about Saquon Barkley? Because this now is the second straight game that he has not been that otherworld force. And I know heading into the season, thinking that he was going to accumulate 2,500 all-purpose yards again was fool's gold. But 60 yards outrushed by the quarterback in week 1. We're not spending any time talking about Saquon. He was running behind Stoutland U. Yes, Landon Dickerson got hurt, but he's still running behind Stoutland U. Why could Saquon Barkley not get loose in the Dallas Cowboy game? And why aren't we talking about that? Because now it's 2 games in a row. So that's on the table. Everything Eagle related will be on the table tonight, as we are, it's a free-for-all here on the program, baby. A free-for-all. Mickey Delay says, let go. Let go what? Let's go. Hi, MP. How are you? Here we go. Internal conversation. I'm not going to lie. I thought Dallas was harder matchup. KC receivers are all hurt, and Carter is going to tee off on Mahomes. Listen, KC has got a problem when it comes to wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, they lost. Is Worthy even going to play? They lost another guy. But let me tell you what. And the conversation, and I say this tongue-in-cheek a lot of the times, and I play around with it, and I get all, goofy with it. But if this was happening to the Eagles with losing, say, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith was dinged up, say that was happening to the Eagles, I would say yes, there's a concern because Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. But when you're talking Pat Mahomes, man, come on. I don't know if you guys watched, and I watched a little bit of the Sunday night game, or Friday. Was it Friday night? God, I don't remember the days anymore. I saw Pat Mahomes on 2 separate occasions in that game throw the ball completely in a dive position, literally like completely spread out in the air, flick the ball 70 yards down the field for completions. Twice I saw him do that in that game. And I'm sorry. And you know what? Send the Gestapo out to get me, man. That's an elite quarterback. And anytime you have a talent like that, honestly, you could be throwing to me as long as I can get open, which I can't. But if I could get open as a sliver of daylight, he'll be able to drop that football into me. Now, whether or not I catch it, probably not. But that's an elite quarterback. That's what a real elite quarterback looks like, not the above average, the good quarterback we have here in Philadelphia. Because if we lost all of our wide receivers, there'd be a major concern. I don't care, honestly, who Pat Mahomes is throwing the ball to. And you got to account for him. Kelsey's still running around out there. He had a big game on Friday. So it really, to me, doesn't matter who the targets are. It matters to me who the quarterback is. And Pat Mahomes is the best in the NFL right now. So as far as Jalen Carter, teeing off on Mahomes, well, I hope he does, because that's the reason the most people tried to get to sleep with on Thursday night of why the Eagles struggled so much against the Cowboys, because we couldn't get a pass rush because Jalen Carter was unavailable. What happens if he doesn't? What happens if it's the same stale pass rush from Thursday night? Then where are the homers going to go with their excuses on this one? I'd like to know. But I hope you're right, MP. I honestly do. Mickey, what's up, man? You got more internal conversations going on. How are you? Talking. So we'll wait and see. And, we have a big build up, of course, to this game on Thursday or Sunday afternoon. And we'll definitely build as we move through the week. But let's get it going. Let's strap it in, strap it up, strap it on, strap it in, and keep your head, hands, and feet inside the car at all times. And let's roll here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network with our program tonight. Your day in Philadelphia sports history is brought to you by the fine folks over at the Fighting's Final, providing to you innovative Philadelphia Philly post-game coverage. Mike Lauro was in for Steve tonight. Apparently, Mike is switching with Steve. I thought I was in for Mike tomorrow night, but now apparently Steve will be. So I'm still going on Thursday, so I'll be back tomorrow night for this program. They're making changes without telling the boss, man. Tells you what kind of ship I run over here. But Mike Lauro or Steve Fuentes will be in tomorrow night. I'll be in Thursday night. So there's your rest of your Fighting's final schedule. And the aforementioned Eagles-Chiefs game, once the clock goes 0, make sure you're right back here for the Birds Flyby, the best in Eagle post-game show entertainment this side of the international date line. Steve Fuentes and a unknown co-host at this time will bring you complete coverage of the Eagles-Chiefs, breaking it all down at around 7:30-ish on Sunday night. And all the other great stuff we got here on the program. And here's the schedule. Catch you guys up. Today's Tuesday. You had the Phillies and Mets post-game Fighting's final. And you got me tomorrow. Props, locks, and parlays. The Mike Lauro sports betting for entertainment purposes only show at 7. We got some more Fighting's final and me as well. Thursday night, big night. The Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn returns for week 2. We'll be breaking down Cowboys, Eagles, and looking at Eagles, Chiefs. The attacking third will also be back. We got some more Phillies Mets post-game stuff. I'll be a busy boy that night. Boy, I got 3 shows that I'm going to be part of. Lovely. And then the final word. And then on Friday, it's the Fighting's final Phillies Royals. The wraparound Saturday, Penn State Nova, Happy Valley Huddle, and more Fighting's final as we're coming down the home stretch of your baseball season. So let's get to your day in Philadelphia sports history. A solemn, somber night in Philly sports history. In 1997, Richie Whitey Ashburn, Phillies Hall of Fame center fielder and broadcaster, died of a heart attack on this day in New York after calling a game at Shea Stadium. After 15 years on the diamond, 12 with the Phillies, and 34 years in the Phillies broadcast booth, Whitey had just begun to think about retirement at the time of his passing. Having already received his long overdue enshrinement into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1995, with little left to accomplish, Ashburn, according to his mother, had planned on calling it a career after 1997. The Phillies radio broadcast booth at Citizens Bank Park is named the Richie Whitey Ashburn broadcast booth in his honor. So obviously part of and I remember this night very, very vividly. I remember where I was. I don't think it hit me as hard as Harry dying. But it was a hard hit because it was the first one. You know what I mean? It was the kind of the chink in the armor of my youth dying away and Richie Ashburn passing. And, voices of our summers, man. So many of us, so many of my generation and older, we are products of Harry Callis and Richie Ashburn's summertime. If you think about your memories growing up in the Delaware Valley, regardless if you were from Philly or the Burbs or South Jersey, you grew up with listening to Phillies games, and there was 2 voices you always heard inside your head, and those were Richie Ashburn and Harry Callis. And on this day, the first domino fell, and of course Harry would precede Richie Ashburn into death in 2009, again in the broadcast booth or doing what he loved to do. So on this night back in 97, Richie Ashburn passed away. Phillies Hall of Fame center fielder, enshrined into Cooperstown in 1995, along with Mike Schmidt, which if you have the opportunity, it's out there on Google it or YouTube it. It's a great, possibly the best day in Phillies history when you have Mike Schmidt and Richie Ashburn going in the Hall of Fame on the same day. So make sure you can check that video out. But yeah, on this day, Richie Ashburn passed away in 1997. All right, that was a somber note in Philadelphia sports history. Tank Beasley ran for over 700 yards last year in Jacksonville. He's legit. I mean, maybe he is legit. I don't know, but it's not necessarily the fact that he is legit. It's why wasn't, once again, I had to listen to it for months about how, what a signing, a diamond in the rough that A.J. Dillon was. And, the Eagles did not address running back at all in the draft at all. Cam Scatteraboo, who's up there in New York now, was hanging around in that 4th round. I really thought the Eagles should have went after him. I would have Cam Scatteraboo to me has got a sort of a higher arc than Shipley does. But the Eagles did not address running back at all in the draft, and all they brought in from the street was A.J. Dillon. So, there's more assets it's costing us in order to kind of get these players, and that's fine if it's going to work out. That's great. Is he brought in here though as a number 2, or is he brought in here as a kick returner, or is he brought in because Shipley's hurt? Well, either way, I guess there was a need for him, and they brought him here. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a bad trade, but again, I'm going to ask you this: is this the priority trade that we're looking for right now? Is the cornerback situation? Are we wishing that away? MP, are you taking the homer standpoint in this and saying I'm going to reserve judgment on the cornerback situation because it's only been one game? Are you one of those guys that can't see the freaking handwriting on the wall? You can't read the tea leaves with this CB2 position and actually think of Dory Jackson or Ja'Cory Bennett or Keely Ringo or Sidney Brown or friggin' the Snuffleupagus or whoever else the hell they heard out there is not going to work? I mean, come on, man. Again, I understand it, but how much did Howie miss this offseason if we're listen, I was going to run down some of the trades for you that Howie has made since August. It's about what? Where is it? I just had it up here. I was looking at it. So it's the 5th trade that Howie has made since mid-August. Don't forget, John Minchie, Sam Howell, Fred Johnson was returned, and now Bigsby. I mean, that's a lot of trades. That's a lot of trades over the last 2 weeks. Or I guess coming up on a month now. Where was all this flurry of activity in the offseason? So I'm just saying, I get it. But no cornerbacks except for Ja'Cory Bennett, who was picked up in a trade as well. I'm just saying, man. I don't know, man. My priorities are different. Howie's like a fantasy manager. I disagree. He's giving away assets. We sent 2 more draft picks out the door for this guy. We're talking about he's accumulating assets. He's accumulating players. Yes. He's trading the assets. Absolutely. I just said maybe a trade is coming for a corner. Okay. So, I mean, you might be right. I would love to see who that trade is for and what the package would be. Is Shipley the part of the package? A.J. Dillon? I mean, who's giving up a decent cornerback for A.J. Dillon or Shipley? Or Bigsby? I don't know. We might have overplayed our hand a little. Well, I shouldn't say that. We might have. Albie Roseman might have overplayed his hand a little bit. Maybe that kicking the can down the road philosophy of his offseason and contracts, maybe it finally got, it caught up to him. And it kind of has, because he's already said that he's got to try to make try to sign some players long term. And he had to let some people go. So is that whole kicking the can down the corner, down the street, is that starting to come back to bite the Eagles a little bit? Denzel Ward. Is it like the Justin Simmons rumor I've been hearing for the last 2 years? I've heard this rumor as well. That's the rumor. Yeah, and Cleveland might be ripe for trading again, as they are every year for the trade deadline. I don't know. You might be right. But right now, the Eagles are silent on the cornerback front. And even if they don't make the guy, maybe they can't find the guy, but bring in some more damn assets, or as you like to call them, bring in some more players. Just bring in a whole bunch of people, and maybe somebody works out. Saying, man. And again, I get it. Week 1. Again, what's the other excuse the homers are using? Oh, yeah, don't worry about anything. It's like the preseason. It's week 1. And they're right. And I'll use an old baseball sort of thing that I use in April. I said, you cannot win a World Series in April, but you sure as hell can lose one in April. So, if the Eagles' philosophy is to come out 0-4, expect to win a Super Bowl, I don't know if that's the right philosophy. And I get it. The games in September are different now because of the lack of starter play in the preseason, which I think is terrible. But if you're going to run that edge, if you're going to live on that freaking blade, then you better come out in the beginning of the part of the season and be ready to play, because you've squandered all the opportunity to sort of warm up. So don't give me that nonsense either. Oh, it's September, man. It's like the preseason. Well, these games count. And yes, you're not going to win a Super Bowl, go 4-0 in September, but you could possibly lose one if you go 0-4. So, and I'm not saying the Eagles are going to go 0-4. Matter of fact, obviously they're not. They won, and I think Sunday's game will be good. I'll give you my official pick on Sunday's game on Thursday night at the Birds with the Birds Blast. Kyle Quinn will reveal our official picks for this game, but I don't know, man. A lot of excuses. A lot of excuses for a win, and that was the funniest takeaway from Thursday night. A lot of excuses of a win. They struggled because he got thrown out of the game. They struggled because it's September and they don't play. They struggled because the big one was Jalen Carter. That was the sort of majority of homers were leaning on was because of Jalen Carter. They struggled because they lost him. And maybe they're right. Maybe they'll come out Sunday and be a defensive juggernaut, or more likely a defensive knot. Of course, adding Jalen Carter and Zadarius Smith helps the pass rush in the second. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, theoretically, it should. Absolutely. But where was Zadarius Smith? Why wasn't that signing done now? Why wasn't that brought in earlier in the offseason when they lost Brandon Graham? I mean, Howie seems to be doing a lot of backpedaling. A lot of lot of redressing. Howie Roseman's doing these days. But I guess you got to try to get it right before it gets too late. And we'll see. We'll definitely see. Sunday's going to be a big test. It's going to be a huge test. Dallas with Dak is not a bad team. Dallas with Dak was not a bad team. And again, what's the other one I've heard? What's the other excuse I heard today? What's another big one? CeeDee Lamb. He gets paid to catch footballs. And the fact that he dropped, two of them were just, I don't blame Dallas Cowboy fans for being upset, man. Two of them were just like backbreakers for them to not complete. And then Miles Sanders with the fumble. And then Ferguson with the drop as well. Listen, the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot. Let's also be wise about that too. I mean, the Cowboys did not do any favors for themselves in this game. The game was there to be taken. And a better team wins that football game. And the better team did, and the Eagles. So I give them credit, but I'm also grounded in the reality that, losing all those assets or losing all those players heading into the season when you gut the defense that just won you a Super Bowl and you replace them with a bunch of Class B free agents and a bunch of draft picks that up to that point hadn't shown the ability to step forward. And then you come out and you pretty much just sort of sputter out of the gate defensively. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and blame September or blame Jalen Carter. I'm not going to blame that. I'm going to blame that for not properly addressing the needs of this team coming into the season. Obviously, I'm going to go there. I'm not going to run after the unicorn and the Sasquatch in the forest. I'm going to actually look at what I see in front of me. So that's just kind of how I look at things. And I know that to some Eagles fans, especially the homers, that doesn't mesh with their mojo because it's always sunny in Philadelphia to them. And I get that. I respect that. Someone's got to drink the Kool-Aid, and it's better them than me. But that's just how I look at things. Do you attribute CeeDee Lamb drops to not playing the preseason? That's a good point, man. I didn't even think of that. It's a very good point. I don't know. And I know Dak was pissed, man. You can see it in his body language. Oh, especially that last one. Now, that last one was a hard catch. That was a tough reception, but it was in his hands, man. It was in his, and you can see him looking at it too. He's looking at it as he's dropping it. I know it's frustrating. But that's a good point. That's a very good point. It could be a product of September football. I didn't think of that, MP. It brought something to bear tonight, man. That's an absolutely great point. And as I mentioned, across the board this week in the NFL, you saw a lot of sort of like, Dan Jones threw for like 700 yards as the Colts blew out the Dolphins. You watched last night, and I think the Bears scored, 3 points after their opening drive or something like that, the whole game, and ended up getting, the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy come back on them. I mean, there were some oddities in the NFL in week one. I went 11-5 picking games this week, which is pretty good, especially in a week one. I also won my week one fantasy battle. Thank you very much. By a long shot. I blew the guy out like 130 to like 80. So, listen, I mean, I get it. There is a lot to be said about the week one stigma in this NFL. about players not being at their game best. Yes. Yeah, you're right. And the Eagles are in that category. They're just along with everybody else. So now going off of what we saw in 2024, week 2, they didn't actually capitalize on the mojo as they let the Falcons kind of come back on them late. Similar situation as they enter in the week 2 against the Chiefs. Again, a very dangerous Kansas City Chief football team that does have their backs against the wall. They can't go 0-1 or 0-2, and I don't know if the NFL wants them to go 0-2. So that's also something you probably might want to consider. And then you got the revenge factor in their building. I mean, you might be seeing a very focused Chiefs team kind of hit the field on Sunday against the Eagles, and I don't know how the Eagles withstand to that. A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin had 5 catches total, Chris. Yeah, it was one of those weeks. Yeah, absolutely. And again, let's talk the Jalen Hurts thing one last time. So as I said, I think offensively, my MVP for the Eagles was Hurts because of the fact that nothing else was really working offensively at all, except for Hurts' legs. And those 2 touchdowns were crucial in that game. I mean, they were very crucial. Hurts did not turn the football over. He was effective, not elite. Kept the ball moving when he could. He still held on to the football too long. Did get sacked once. Still had some problems with certain pass coverages and stuff like that. But, all in all, I thought he played a Jalen Hurts-esque game. And he was a game manager, and he did what he had to do to propel his team to victory when nothing else was working. And that's what sometimes, you got to do that. Sometimes they're not all 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, and all that. You got to do what you got to do. And I give Hurts credit for that. But I'm not entering any conversation with elite stuff. I mean, Hurts did what any starting quarterback in the NFL would have done. And that's, made lemonade out of lemons. And he did. And those 2 touchdowns were key in this football game. Now, is there something also to be said about the vertical passing game? Where was that on Thursday night? Where was it? And again, it might be, as you're saying, MP, a lot of week 1, voodoo out there. Let's see, Kevin Abdul will have the Hurts pitch the ball to Saquon once in a while to keep the defenses honest. Yeah, not a lot of stuff along the edges with Saquon on Thursday, right? Everything was pretty much up the gut. Now, was that design? Was there some problems with the edge? I know I saw Jordan Mailata holding his ass off in that game. I mean, holding like a mofo and not get called at all for it. Some flagrant holds as well. And again, I heard this, well, there's holding on every play. Yeah, well, I got you, man. But the ones I saw Mailata not get flagged for, that was some bad holding. Some real bad holding. Maybe there was something about the edges they didn't like. Maybe something about the run protection they didn't like on the edges, so they kept running everything up the middle. Especially even when they lost Dickerson, they still went up the middle. What's going on there? But, a little bit of and Kevin Abdul's offensive play calling did get stagnant in the second half. They didn't really move the football at all. They scored 3 points. What happened to the play calling in the second half? What happened to the electric offensive movement in the second half of this game? Everyone wants to talk about the first half, rightfully so. It was an offensive battle all half long. Eagles scored on the opening drive. They only did that twice all last season. They also scored a first quarter touchdown. Only did that 8 times all last season. And they ended up scoring 21 first half points. Something they didn't do it all last season as well. I think maybe in the Super Bowl they did. But that was it. Notoriously bad starts for the Eagles in 2024. And they came out offensively humming. But we had problems on the defense. They couldn't keep the ball out of the end zone either. What happened in the second half of the play calling? Again, and the biggest thing I'm asking about the second half of that football game is Saquon Barkley, a topic we're not talking about. Saquon Barkley, where was the home run? That 75-yard up the seam, up the gut, put a fork in them, touchdown run that we've become so accustomed to of seeing from him. What happened to that play? Saquon was nothing in the second half of this football game, got outrushed by the quarterback. Why is that not a big topic of conversation? This is 2 games in a row now that Saquon Barkley has looked human. Where's the topic there? And how concerning is that? And is that why we signed Tank Bigsby? I don't think so, but what is going on with Saquon Barkley? I'm a PSU guy, and Saquon used to run laterally a lot in fine soul. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I remember watching Saquon run at Penn State. Padula gets the pass for now, but his offense was very vanilla. Matt Eberflus adjusted Dallas' defense at halftime and shut them down. And so did Dick Fangio. Dallas stacked the box and challenged Jalen to throw it. Yeah, and that's the way. That's how you do it. You stack the box, you challenge, you take away anything from Saquon, and you make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. Now, Jalen Hurts didn't beat nobody with his arm on Thursday. He beat him with his feet, which, hey, it works. I mean, yeah. And I know they made some adjustments, but let's also look at this thing fairly. Miles Sanders with the fumble. All right. That's not, I mean, they were cutting through the Eagles pretty fairly at that point, and Sanders fumbles the ball down by the goal line. Yes. And the Eagles predicated themselves on forcing turnovers late last season. And that was one of the major reasons why I believe the defense was the number one contributing factor to the Eagles Super Bowl. Yes. So they got the turnover. And then you factor in the CD Lamb stuff. So yes, adjustments were made, but even with those adjustments, to me, it looked like Dallas was moving the ball a lot more effectively against the Eagles in the second half than the Eagles were moving the ball against Dallas in the second half. And the Eagles just, once again, with the turnover, I ain't gonna say got lucky, but they got a turnover and they got lucky on CD Lamb's drops. But we don't talk about that. We look at this game like it was some sort of like masterclass in how to come out and open the season. It wasn't. It's an ugly game. It was an ugly game that went back and forth, and the Eagles were lucky to come out with a win. And I'm glad they did. But confidence heading into week 2, where is it? I mean, where is your confidence level on this football team heading into Kansas City week 2 with the Chiefs team that has their backs against the wall, does not want to go 0-2. And yeah, the NFL probably doesn't want them to go 0-2 either. And then you're going to be dealing against an actual elite quarterback in Pat Mahomes, who, again, look at the stuff on Friday in a loss against the Chargers. I saw Pat Mahomes on 2 separate occasions go completely vertical in the air and flick the ball with his wrist 65 yards down the field for completions to no-named wide receivers. That's an elite quarterback. Hey, we're not the Ravens fans. Yeah. Man. What a way to start the season for them. No Parsons, CeeDee Lamb drops the ball, Miles fumbles. Yeah, they were 100% huge. Turnovers wins and lose games. Drops win and lose games. Absolutely. But we're not giving that its due as Eagles fans. We're not being subjective or objective. We're being subjective. We're not looking outwards. We're internalizing why we struggle. We're not going to look outwards of why the team that we played took advantage of certain aspects of our game, but we're going to internalize why we struggled. And the biggest one is Jalen Carter and being ejected. And it's a big one, but we're not talking about, the fact that the Eagle defense all night long, even at the end, even in the second half, as I said, when the adjustments were made and the offensive deluge stopped for both teams, the Cowboys still moved the ball more effectively in the second half than the Eagles did. The Eagles' offense fell off the map in the second half. Dallas moved the football. They shot themselves in the foot with a turnover, and they shot themselves in the foot with a couple of key drop passes. 100%. And that's part of the game. Holding on to the football and catching the ball is huge parts of the game. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Eagles got lucky that it happened, because it's part of the game. And it's a part of the game that they lived pretty ferociously on last year. But confidence-wise, win or loss, heading into week 2, where are you? Where are you with this football team? I'll be home. I'll bet the house that the first play on Sunday will be an A.J. Brown pass. Good point. Thoughts on Bader batting leadoff? Yeah, and that was another big story tonight. Phillies, we didn't really we kind of let off with the Eagles, but Phillies 9-3 winners tonight. Magic number to clinch the NL East is now down to 9, into single digits. Harrison Bader with the leadoff. What do you have, like 4 hits tonight or something like that? 3 hits. Bader was 3 for 5 with 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and a dinger, batting .279. And I got to give credit where credit's due. For the first time in his tenure as the Phillies president of baseball operations, or whatever the hell his title is, Dave Dombrowski actually hit with a trade deadline trade or two for the first time since he's been here. Congratulations. Finally, it looks like we got something we can actually sink our teeth into and help us in a quest for a world championship. But yeah, Bader batting leadoff. I floated that idea a few nights back. I did. I floated that idea a few nights back about Bader leading off, who the replacement would be potentially for Trey Turner. And of course, I immediately went to Kyle Schwarber. I was really, and I'm glad they didn't go there. I'm glad that they stayed away from Schwarber as the leadoff hitter. They put in Harper last night, and tonight was Bader. I mean, stick with Bader at that point. Stick with him. Let him run out the rest of the season as your leadoff hitter. And see where he takes us. But no, very good. Bader's been the real deal since he's been here. So much so that I want him to be I'm penciling him to my left field spot in 2026. That's where I'm putting Harrison Bader. He's got a club option, I think, next year. So I'm penciling him in. The Phillies will exercise that option, and they'll bring him back, and he'll be the starting left fielder in 2026. Bader 100% should lead off till Trey gets back, lefties versus righties. MP, I don't even go there anymore with that nonsense. I honestly don't care about the lefty versus righty thing anymore. I don't know. I never really bought into it, even when it was the thing. And now it's so analytically driven. The lefty and righty thing is not necessarily a thing anymore. I get it's an old school baseball way to do things. I never believed in it. I'm always of the ilk that if you're a Major League Baseball hitter, I don't care what side of the plate or pitcher's mound that they're throwing from, you better be able to hit it. But I get the whole lefty righty thing, but I just don't prescribe to it. Never have. Even as a player, I didn't prescribe to it. I didn't care, man. I don't care who the hell's pitching. I'm going to be able to hit. Stott and Ken. What are you talking about? Stott and Ken back to back. Joe, what are you talking about, man? What kind of stuff you bringing up here? Oh, yes. Otto Kemp and Bryson Stott going back to back. Yeah. Big night for Kemp. Kemp also had himself a multiple. I know he had one hit. What was his line? Kemp was 2 for 3 with a run scored, a homer, and an RBI as he's trying to fill in now for the recently IL'd Alec Bohm, auditioning perhaps for another gig in 2026 with somebody else. Could be a trade chip the Phillies use in the offseason. Could also be a potential bench piece for this team next year as well. So Otto Kemp doing what he's got to do, getting the opportunity here at the end of the regular season to sort of showcase himself. Like to see that. Don't know what his postseason. He might be on the taxi squad, that list of players that you designate as part of your team if somebody gets hurt. I know that, I don't know, do they still do the taxi squad thing? Don't you have to name some players that you're not necessarily going to put on your roster, but players that you would use if somebody on the roster got hurt? I know it was a COVID thing. I don't know if we still do that, but should he probably be part of that if that's still a thing? I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But yeah, Otto Kemp doing his best showcasing of his ability right now. Bader hits righties better than lefties, but I don't think Rob knows that. No, Rob doesn't care. Rob has his own analytics that he goes for. Left field, you're putting Crawford in center all day long and twice on Sunday. You're damn right I'm putting Crawford in center. Damn right. Where the hell else would I put him? Bob and Bader will lead off only versus lefties. I believe that. Nick Castellanos is starting to hit. Yeah, whatever. Listen, it's a good news story. I'm not going to sit here and bash. I'm sort of taking a break. The inevitable has happened. The Phillies are going to clinch the National League East. They are going to go back to the playoffs. I've never doubted that. I've always been on that train all season long. I knew they were going to do it. They're just really too good not to do it. But the question since April, this was a hot topic back in April, that, I think the season started and the Phillies, of course, when they lose their first 3 games in a row in April, everyone's like, burn the boats. And the question immediately goes to October. And back in April, it seemed like a ridiculous concept that we're talking about October and April. Why can't we just sit back and enjoy the regular season? Well, because our hearts have been broken so many times very recently. That's why we can't. And I was part of that group. I've been looking at October since April. And obviously now we are like on the doorstep of October. And now with a 9 games to go to clinch the NL East, the inevitability is happening. They're going to repeat as the NL East champs, and they're going to get back to the playoffs, probably as the number 2 seed, which I'm okay with. And they're going to have that bye week in between the wild card and the NLDS. But now it all comes back down to October, and all the good news stories of Nick Castellanos starting to hit again. Allegedly, I don't think he is, but he's looking better. Trey Turner coming back cold from an injury. Will the pitching hold up? Is Bryce Harper going to figure out how to hit at some point soon? All that stuff is going to come right back up top because it's all geared towards October in the next 5 games. And is this team capable of making a run deep? Verdict's still out. I don't think they can. I still am on the side of they're not going to make a deep run. I think they're, maybe a series win. Yeah, maybe they get to the NLCS. I don't know. But we'll see. And we're getting to that point. So I cannot wait. You live for October baseball. Yes, I will. They apparently switched the thing around again. So Steve Fuentes did not do the show tonight, did not do the postgame tonight. So he will be on tomorrow with the postgame. I will be on tomorrow night with this show. I found that out through a third party. So I will be back tomorrow after the Phillies postgame for the final word. Phils go to LA next week, which will probably be for the number 2 seed. And also they go to Arizona too. A little West Coast trip right there at the end of the season. That's always nice and fun. Listen, the NL East is over. The Mets ain't winning this division. Even if we got to get it all the way down to the final game of the season, they're not coming back. What, they're 9 games out now? It's done. The Mets had their shot. They almost got it. They, with the 3-game sweep up in Citi Field, but then they followed that up with losing like 4 out of their last, or losing 10 out of their last 4. Going 4-10, whatever. They had their chance, so that's over, and the Phillies will win the division. But it's all about October. Rangers number 4 all-time in playoff ERA, amazing stat. All-time in Phillies history or Major League? I don't think he's Major League Baseball history, but Phillies history. I mean, yeah, pitching's going to come back to the forefront. Can't wait, man. Cannot wait to talk about playoff baseball. But Phillies win 9-3 tonight. Eagles make another trade, like they're 25th in the last 3 weeks. We are getting ready for where is that? We're getting ready for week number 2 in the NFL. Some surprises in week 1, NFL-wise, all-time MLB, behind Sandy Koufax and Christy Mathewson. Now, do we have to put the context of actual appearances in front of this too? Come on, man. I mean, don't you have to have a certain amount of appearances in order to be qualified for this? But we'll leave it at that. I mean, I'm not going to get too excited about that stat, all right? I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't know Sandy Koufax's postseason history, but I'm going to say he's been to the playoffs more than Ranger Suarez has, and probably has a little bit more innings pitched under his belt than Ranger Suarez does. Same with Christy Mathewson. I don't know their history. I'm not going to get too excited about that. But big time, a lot of surprises in week 1. Dan Jones, my biggest surprise of the week. Anybody see that one coming? Shane Steichen, man. Bringing out Dan Jones's quarterback ability. Woohoo! That's one of those stories that come Thanksgiving we'll think about and be like, oh, remember when Danny Jones was good for a week? All right. Let's head now to the Of the Night segment. All right. The other night segment is, of course, Flyers related. We are coming down the home stretch of spotlighting who I think are going to be your pivotal pieces of the Flyers. I think they're going to have a press availability tomorrow. Dan Hilfery and Keith Jones are going to have a presser tomorrow, sort of a State of the Union address of the Flyers. I think tomorrow around 1, they said it's going to happen. So make sure you're going to look out for that. And again, we're coming down the home stretch of spotlighting some of my key contributors, who I think has got to really be the part, who I think is going to play a part in trying to win the Flyers or get the Flyers into the playoffs and win them something, but they're going to get to the playoffs. And I think after this guy, I got one more left, which only has 17. That's 17. That's all I got. I got 17 players to spotlight. You got to dress 20 on game day. So I don't know where the last 3 members of this roster are coming from. I still don't know. I know there's going to be some camp battles. Some draft picks in the past might win some spots. Some players, I didn't talk about Jet Lachenko. I'm not going to talk about him this into the spotlight segment because I don't know where he kind of comes out in all this. But I will only spotlight 17 players. You got to dress 20 on game day. 18 skaters and 2 goalies. And I'm going to highlight 17 players, 15 skaters and 2 goalies. So there's 3 players that I don't know who they are. I don't know where they're coming from. They haven't been added via free agency and they haven't been added through a trade. And I don't know who those 3 players are. And that is my biggest. I know if you're into watching camp battles, if you're a hockey guy or if you're a Flyers guy or gal, whatever, this probably is going to be a very interesting training camp for them. First year under Rick Tocchet, and you got a few roster spots up for the grabs. And some of the people that I'm talking about in the spotlight are not locks to make this team either. Matter of fact, the guy I'm about to talk about here in a second is not a lock to make this team out of camp. But I really think that he should be because he's shown some glimpses. He didn't really play well holistically, but so we're about a month away, less than a month away for Flyers training camp. And then probably about a month away from the start of the preseason. Actually, no, we're about a month away from the start of the regular season. It starts October 9th in Florida against the Panthers. So we're getting down to it. And again, I still don't know who the hell the rest of this roster is. But tonight we're going to talk about another defenseman. And the last guy that we'll talk about tomorrow night will be a defenseman as well. But tonight, the highly prospected Emil Andrae is our spotlight player of the night. Emil played in 42 games with the Flyers as he was yo-yoed up and down through Lehigh Valley all season long. And his time with the Flyers had a goal, 6 assists, 7 points, and -5. And a real quandary for Emil Andrae. One game, he looks like he's the next coming, and then the next game, he looks like he doesn't know how to skate. A lot of flaws in his game, both on the offensive defensive side and especially on the defensive side. In a lot of aspects, I thought Emil Andrae was one of those guys, a la Cam York, a la Tyson Forrester, a la Noah Cates, that really needed to take a momentous step. Maybe not as big of a step as those guys had to take, but he had to take something up step. And in my humble hockey opinion, Emil Andrae took a step or maybe even 2 back. And really started to kind of, question what the hell are we doing with our defense? And how can this be so bad? Why is our blue line so terrible? Emil Andrae came in like a lion to start his time throughout the season, had some really good games early on for the Flyers, but then sputtered out and was, again, up and down all year. But he's a young defenseman. The Flyers need him to work out because we just don't have anything right now. And I'm not including Oliver Bonk in any of this because I don't know where he stands on the making the team this year. But there's just not enough in the well right now of young defensemen, and he's one of them. And he needs to work out right now, at least, because we just don't have the prospects at the NHL level or the NHL ready level currently on our defense. And Emil Andrae is one of them, if maybe not the only one. So I need to see massive improvements from Andrae. I think this camp's going to be very important for him. It might also be a very pivotal camp in terms of his future with this organization. But I don't think he gets cut. At the very least, but he probably starts the season down in Lehigh Valley like he does every season, and then has an opportunity to break his way into the lineup. But I really want to see Emil Andre have a breakout camp and actually make this team outright in camp. It'll make me feel a lot better with our blue line, because right now the blue line and the goaltending position and our lack of a true number one center and who's playing left wing on the number 2 line are my top priorities for this hockey team right now, as we are literally less than a month away from the start of training camp in the preseason and about a month away from the start of the regular season. So Emil Andre with his -5 and 42 games played and 1 goal and 6 assists is your spotlight player of the night. And I really, really, really need to see something from him this year. He needs to take, instead of that 2 steps forward, 1 step back mentality, he needs to take momentous steps forward for them this year. Dolphins defense isn't exactly the 85 Bears. No, it's not. Trenton is getting a hockey team. Are they really? They're getting an ECHL team, or are they getting an AHL team? Do tell. That's big news, man. That's another hockey. That's another opportunity to watch hockey close to home. That's really good. Do tell on the deets there, MP. Is it an ECHL team? Is it an AHL team? Is it a non-NHL affiliated team? Is a Federal Prospect Hockey League team? What are they getting? I want to know. But there you go. Emil Andre is your spotlight player of the night, and we're down to 1. I got 1 more to do, and that's going to be tomorrow, and it's a defenseman. Guess who I'm talking about? And he wears number 55. So that's all I'm going to give you about him, and we'll talk about him tomorrow. All right, on to the card of the night segment, or the card of the night. Yep. The card review segment tonight. Taking a break from the norm. That's right. Jeez, there's a poker game going on in here. We're going to take a break from the norm. No, there's no fire. Everybody relax. There's nothing on fire here. Trying to get a vape in. We're going to take a break from the norm. We've been on baseball cards for probably about the last 3 months. I've been doing nothing but baseball cards, but I'm breaking away from baseball tonight. I'm going into hockey. That's right. The very misunderstood world of hockey sports cards and the value of such cards. A lot, the stigma, the voodoo around hockey cards, or they're not as expensive, or they're not financially lucrative as baseball cards. And there's some truth to that statement, but it's not entirely true. There is value in hockey cards. Matter of fact, if you go 1 for 1, talking about a base baseball card versus a base hockey card, hockey cards are actually more valuable in base form than baseball cards are, because of the time and effort spent by Upper Deck, who is the primary hockey card producer in 2025. They've been pretty much the ones pushing out hockey cards for the last 10 years exclusively. Upper Deck spends a lot of time on the graphics. It spends a lot of time on the designs of these cards. Really does a really good job with it. And they have really sort of stepped up their game. So if you're looking base card versus base card, hockey cards are actually more valuable than baseball cards. But overall, of course, baseball reigns supreme and is the king of card. But hockey's made a push, and they've made a push out of not being relevant at all back when I was a kid. When I was a kid, hockey cards were a dime a dozen. And it's a shame, because I know I had a Gretzky rookie at some point in my life. I know I did. And of course, I don't know where that card is today, but I know I had one. I have vivid memories of a Wayne Gretzky 79-80 hockey card. I have vivid memories of it. But tonight we're going to talk about a hockey card from 1991 or 1990. The 1991 Topps, because back in 90 or in the 80s and 90s, Topps was involved in the baseball and the hockey card world. They were producing hockey cards as well. Matter of fact, they all were at one point. And then Topps slowly got out of doing hockey, and then Fleer and Dunross, they went under. And now it's primarily in Upper Deck's hands in terms of producing hockey cards. But back in the late 80s and the 80s, Topps had a hand in producing hockey cards. And tonight we're going to talk about a 1991 Topps card. It's an insert from the base set of the 89 of the 90-91 Topps hockey. It is a all-time leading a leading team scorer card. It was part of a insert that they ran that year, and it's got some hometown ties to it. Matter of fact, it's a Flyers card, and it's the newest Flyer we got. And I'm talking about the new head coach. That's right. This is your 1990-91 Topps Rick Tocchet team scoring leaders card from that set. Tocchet, who I honestly, tonight when I was researching this, making a decision on what card to use, I was like, when I looked at this card, I'm like, when the hell was Rick Tocchet the captain of the Flyers? But apparently he was. He's wearing the C right there. So Rick Tocchet, our new head coach, of course, spent a bulk of his career here in Philadelphia. Younger part of his career. He sort of ended up traveling around the NHL towards the end of his career, but for the very first part of his career, was a Flyer and apparently rose to the ranks of captain at one point around the 89-90 season. So this is his 90-91 all-time scorer, leading scorer card from that set. Every team had a bunch of these all-time, scoring leader cards with the flames there. That was sort of the big insert that year from Topps. This card is worthless, utterly worthless on the open financial market, but it could be in value to some Flyer fans from back in the day. I think the most I could find this card legitimately being sold for is about $5. But that's still, hey, I mean, the cards back then were very inexpensive. So if you make a $5 profit on a Rick Tocchet from 1990, I think you're doing pretty good. But a cool card. Again, whatever Topps touches turns to gold in my aspect. Nothing like, no fancy bells and whistles about this hockey card. It's pretty upfront picture, the Topps logo, the little scores thing, and then his name. I mean, nothing bells and whistles about it, but it's a clean looking card. Topps just does cards well, and this was back when Topps did hockey cards, so that to me makes it a little bit more valuable as well, as Topps doesn't do that anymore. But there you have it. Your 90-91 Topps Rick Tocchet base card, team scoring leaders insert from that year's set, and there's your card review. A smart looking card, and here it is in its physical form. Here's the one I got right here. It's number 6, I believe, in the set. Is that number 6? Number 9. It's not. It's number 9 in that set. And here you go. Again, the most I could find it was about $5 on any like reputable database. So there you have it. Rick Tocchet and his 1990-91 Topps all-time scorers leaders card. I'll find out when they announce the hockey team, and I'll tell you. Yes. So let me know what league it's from. That would be pretty cool. All right, folks. Listen, Jalen Carter not suspended. It's going to pay a fine. I guess time served after being ejected in week 1. Eagles make another trade like their 5th since mid-August. What does that tell you about the state of the team right now? What does that tell you about Howie Roseman's offseason as they keep adding assets or adding players? Week 2 is upon us in the NFL. Where's your confidence level in the Eagles heading to Kansas City to play a very desperate Chiefs team? And is this a must-win for the Kansas City Chiefs? Can they afford to go 0-2? I said they cannot. Phillies with a big win tonight, reducing that magic number down to 9. 9-3 winners over the Mets. Harrison Bader, the big-time offensive story. Kyle Schwarber with his 50th home run of the season. And the Phillies are full speed ahead to winning their 2nd consecutive NL East title in October 08. Did our night in Philadelphia sports history, which is the passing of Richie Ashburn, and our card review, Rick Tocchet, and our of the night segment, Emil Andre, as we're coming down the home stretch and previewing some of the Flyers players that might be part of this season. Shipley is hurt. Yeah, I know. We talked about that, Joe, earlier on. We talked about the reasons around why he's here. Pretty hefty price to pay for, another running back. Could have drafted one in the 4th round named Cam Scatterby. Chiefs in last place in the AFC West are going to be 0-2. Book it. I disagree. And I'll give you my official prediction and score on Thursday night against on the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, as me and Kyle will break down this matchup. And I'll tell you why I think you're wrong. So make sure you're tuned in for all that action on Thursday night at 7 on the Birds Blast. Once again, here's our schedule. for the weeks to come here on the network. As you can see, we're on into Tuesday. Tomorrow, of course, is Wednesday, and there you have all Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday stuff. These schedules will come out week to week as we will. We've grown beyond the show cover promos. I think we got to have a schedule. So there you go. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining me tonight. I will be back tomorrow night. I didn't think I was going to be, but I will be. I'll be back tomorrow night for the final word immediately following the Phillies game, and we'll talk more. See where maybe the Eagles made another trade. Maybe they traded for a cornerback, not a cornerback. Maybe they finally do one of those. And we'll see where we are with all that. We'll talk maybe about what the presser was about with Dan Hilgerty and Keith Jones are going to address the media tomorrow, give a State of the Union address of the Flyers as we're getting ready for hockey. And, of course, the Phillies. Do they win their 31st series of the season? They have that opportunity tomorrow night. So make sure you're back here around 10:30-ish as soon as the Fighting's final ends. You guys have a great rest of your night and even better tomorrow. And we will talk very soon.